Now, we have seen convergence over the last year on the need to establish a climate fund. It's one of the positive stories of the climate talks this year. But the message here is don't just come away with any kind of fund. That won't do. What we want is a particular kind of fund, a fair climate fund, one which marks a new path in the management of climate finance flows. The current arrangements for managing climate finance are really broken. They're not delivering the money to those that need it most and can spend it best. We've got a plethora, a spaghetti bowl of different climate financing channels, numerous funds out there, and they're all delivering relatively small pots of money and usually in one-off amounts. So developing countries are faced with an unfair burden of having to shop around a range of existing channels for these one-off amounts. And each of these channels has got their own reporting requirements, eligibility criteria, application procedures. It's incredibly burdensome. What we want to see established is a fair one-stop shop for climate finance, which gets the money to where it's needed. There is a huge and gaping adaptation gap in the current arrangements for managing climate finance. We think that less than 10% of current climate finance flows are going to adaptation. The vast majority is going to mitigation. And that's a tragedy for those poor people around the world who are already experiencing the impacts of climate change. So that needs to be addressed in the design of a new fund. What we're keen on seeing here is a fund to which developed countries commit their money. It's then up to the board to decide how that money is spent. We're trying to get away from a system where developed countries get to pick and choose their favourite pet projects in their favourite countries. So the money goes to the board decides, and the decision can be made here in Cancun that board will have to allocate at least 50% of the resources under its control to adaptation, so that absolutely can be done.
Investing now in responding to climate change will lessen the long-term cost and, if done right, will contribute toward meeting sustainable development and poverty eradication goals. A useful parallel can be drawn because investing toward the advancement of women's rights and gender equality is also good economics. Educating girls has shown dramatic returns on investment across sectors around the globe. Advancing women's standing has shown to be a great way to grow a national economy. We see two options. Climate finance can exacerbate existing inequities, inequalities, and discriminations, or it can do the opposite. Climate finance can bridge gaps and innovate for justice and human rights. Sources are not gender neutral. They have direct implications for allocation. The global market economy has a history of inequity, negatively impacting women in particular. Carbon markets and private sector sources cannot be the only answer. Carbon markets are unpredictable and volatile, and vulnerable populations need sources which are predictable and long-term.
The British government absolutely accepts and is pushing for the urgent need for international mechanisms with the credibility and the legitimacy to be able to channel and disperse large amounts of finance, larger than we've ever seen before in the climate world, to developing countries and to help them deliver the low-carbon, climate-resilient growth that they need, indeed that the whole world needs in the future. If this new fund is really effective, we, the British government, will want to contribute a great deal of our finance to it and to motivate the private sector to devote the very needed resources from them. The United Kingdom has a strong incentive here in Cancun to seek a strong and clear outcome on the Green Fund. That outcome needs to be seen within a balanced package, of course, but it's not a negotiating chip. We have to take its design very seriously. It's absolutely fundamental and important to our climate change ambitions.